Welcome to the Inviting Shift podcast. I'm your host, Christina Smith, and today we are going to start off the new year with some great morning routines. So if you are not a morning person or you've wanted to create a morning routine but you haven't been successful yet, this is your chance. I have a special guest, Jenny Lee, who is a specialist in creating the most fantastic morning routine so that you can have fun and bring joy into your day. Well, welcome Jenny Lee to the Inviting Shift podcast.
Thank you so much, Christina, for having me. I'm so excited.
I am so excited too. Jenny is going to talk to us today about morning routines. And I got to tell you, my morning routine could really use some brush up. So I'm looking forward to hearing all of her tips and how she has created a really great morning routine that sets her up for the day. So Jenny, just tell us a little bit about what it is that you do and how you're going to help us today.
Well, something that I want to say firstly is that, Christina, you are not alone. Just like a lot of people who find morning dreadful, apparently 70% of Americans find morning dreadful.
Wow.
And I completely understand. Like, I was there. Snooze buttons like 20 times. And by the time you press the 20th time, it's like, oh, 1 hour, you've taken 1 hour, just like, snoozing and lazing around in bed. I mean, it's completely understand, but thinking about back then, that was because, first, there's something deeper that's like underlying, it could be something that you don't like to wake up to. And that time when that happened was when I was an overwhelmed mom. I was burnt out and depleted. And mornings are really not it's just not a good time, for me to step out of and be happy about, because really when you're running your day from a place of depletion, it's hard to celebrate, and it's hard to notice the little things that are actually, can be appreciated, right? And that changed when actually all of those unhappiness that kind of happened, and but of course being lazy in the morning, being super exhausted. I was also, that was a part of it. That was also postpartum depression. And that led to a divorce. Then later on, I had time for myself because my ex-husband and I had a split custody. And finally, I got like a couple of days just for me. And that's how I started waking up early in the morning. And not right away. At first, it was still me waking up to a job that I did not like. And of course, stressful mornings again, right? Because I'll always be rushing and, worried that I'd be late and all of that. But there was this vacation that I took in Hawaii. So I hope that this inspires a lot of people, because if you want to wake up in the morning easily, you would want to have something fun to look forward to.
Yes, that is helpful.
Something fun that you are waking up to. Mm-hmm. And so this time when I was in Hawaii, it was probably 5:50 in the morning. I was staying at a hostel, and somebody said, "Did you guys see the sunrise?" And I was just like, oh gosh, these guys are so noisy. But then I was already awake anyway. Okay, let's see what the big deal is. It's sunrise. All right. Now can I go back to bed? But then I'm already awake, right? Then something that I realized that time was, because I wake up earlier, that means I have a longer day to do fun things. Right? More places to visit.
Yeah, instead of cramming in stuff that you're doing at home, right? I mean, that's the big difference. Yes. Is that is this stuff that I'm looking really excited at doing? Or am I stuck in this routine of this depletion routine where I'm always lacking energy and wanting, and feeling like
Yes.
I just want to get off the roller coaster almost, right? And like, let me stay in bed, put that cover over my head, and let me just stay here. So I understand. I was never a morning
Yes.
person.
And I completely understand. It can be hard, right? And it's so much easier to just like hide under the covers.
Yes.
And yeah, I completely understand that. But then like after the holidays, I went back to Connecticut, real life, right? Back to real life and back to the stressful mornings again. Then at some point, I just felt, this is just not sustainable. It's like my nervous system was screaming, I got to do something about this. And so, because I've had that change, when I was in vacation, then I realized like, oh, waking up in the morning can actually be fun. And so, right, that's how I changed. Then I would wake up 10, 15 minutes earlier and do something that makes me feel exhilarated and happy. And for me, that's music, dancing, and that movement was so fun. Then after 10, 15 minutes passed, I was like, oh, I feel so good. Then that day at work was just not as stressful. So I work in an urban district school, and there are a lot of problems, as you can see with a lot of other urban schools. Children come from environments that are not conducive for children to grow up, and they need a lot of love. Right, but with me, who was already stressed out and depleted, I didn't have that much to give them. But then because I was in a good mood from having a good morning, my interaction with them was so different. I was so much more attentive, and interestingly, I could be funny. The thing is that you can't be funny when you're unhappy.
Well, when you're depleted or all you're thinking about is like, how can I bring up the energy to finish this day, right? And how can I get back to my bed, basically? If that's our only thought, of course, we're not going to be able to interact the same way. I'm sure that this would work with adult coworkers as well, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. With everything, it's like our interaction when we're in a good mood, when we're not in a place of overwhelm or stressed out, it's like the way that things respond to you and the way you respond to things are so much more positive.
Yes, yes.
And it's that moment to moment that changes your life, right? Because then days become weeks and weeks become months and months become years, and now you're a happier person.
Well, and even it affects your whole, like everybody who's connected to you as well. For me, I remember being a single mom and I hated mornings. They were the worst because it was like rush, take them to daycare, to school, let me rush off to work. And then like by the time I got to work, I already felt like I had a whole day behind me. But none of it was like really conscious, right? It was just like, what is the next thing? What is the next thing? It certainly wasn't exciting. And that impacts our children, right? Because I was a child who I had to take care of myself in the morning. So it was always last minute. I would get out of bed, right? Throw on some clothes and rush out the door. No breakfast, no fun, no conversation. And so I didn't learn that like mornings could actually be fun, where my husband is like the complete opposite. His family sang music in the morning. They made breakfast. They had all these great, so he gets up and he's like ready to wash the dishes and get stuff done. And like, he has a 2-hour routine in the morning that he does with journaling and writing poetry. And I'm a little jealous because like, I am good at doing my intentions and setting intentions for the day, but like beyond 5 or 10 minutes, I haven't been able to like stretch that. So how did you end up, because I know that you do more than just 10 or 15 minutes of dance today. What does your morning routine look like?
Okay, so 10, 15 minutes was just the beginning because I don't agree. Well, right now I have 2 hours of morning routine. And of course, like everything, like one habit, was stacked on top of the next, on top of the next, but that took me, say, months, or probably almost a year. But as a start, that was 10, 15 minutes. And then I love what I do so much that I want to do it more. So I'm going to wake up earlier so I can have more fun. Right. Then, a couple of months later, okay, now that I'm in a different place, and I started realizing, I think I want to add, say, juicing because I want to even be healthier. And it is only when you're in a happy place you get to think, like, you start to think of happier things, healthier things for yourself, right? Because imagine when you're like tired, juicing,
Take all those vegetables out, all that work.
Exactly. Yeah, but then like when you're happy, when you're in a good mood, it's like nothing is really a problem. Oh, you gotta wash my juicer?
It's almost becomes like a gift, right? It's like, this is something I'm doing for me. How exciting. This is just for me. And what I love about this is it switches that paradigm that I grew up with where you have to work hard and then you get a reward. And instead you're like, let me reward myself in the morning and have some fun in the morning.
So that more rewards would come, right? How's that? Yeah. and also like, that mindset of like, I have to do these things. Then it switched to, I get to. It's like, I get to dance in the morning. I get to juice in the morning. Like, how amazing is that? Like what you said, gifts, right? And so that's how I stacked it. At first, it was just the movement, and then the juicing. And then I start thinking, oh, you know what? I was really bad at push-ups. And so I thought, maybe I could add some kind of a challenge, just 2 minutes. Maybe I can wake up 3 minutes a little earlier.
They're just little shifts, right? just little shifts. We're not asking you to wake up tomorrow 2 hours earlier and
no, even exactly. And so, 5 to 10 minutes as a start. Right. Then I added that challenge. At first it was just like probably a quarter of a push-up that I could do. It's like, and, okay, I'm going to try again tomorrow. And after a couple of weeks, I could do half a push-up. Right. And by the second month, I could do one whole push-up. And that was so, it was not an easy process. Of course, it took me a couple of months to get one push-up, but then like when I did it, right, it was so rewarding. And I got in touch with that part of me that still loves to grow, that loves to learn new things. Then okay, if I could nail a push-up, like what else could I learn? How else could I expand? Then then different things like practicing inversions, working on my splits, right? Or some, martial arts moves that I found challenging that time that I could practice for 3 to 5 minutes in the morning. And so then I added cold shower. I actually nailed it too. Now cold shower is really not a problem for me. But at first it was like, ooh, so scary.
Right.
But it's all really a habituation for me to become a more expanded version of myself. Like, okay, from like years ago, I was this a depleted person that could not get out of bed. And now, after years, I have this expanded version of myself who could do all these things.
Yeah, you're expanding your pride about yourself, right? I mean, this sincere pride about and building your resilience and saying I can try one hard thing. What's the worst that's going to happen? I'm going to fail. I'll try again tomorrow. And So it's really beautiful how you
Yeah.
saw it as a practice. Like, okay, I can't do a push up in 1 week. Okay, well, we just keep practicing. And I think people forget that failure is part of that mastery at some point. And so this is just
Yeah.
one easy way that we can fit it in the morning. I love that.
Oh, thank you. And even like with what you said about failure, right? When you're practicing something challenging in a fun environment that you create that is only for yourself, it doesn't even feel like a
Right.
failure. It just feels
Practice.
like, okay, when babies are learning to walk, is that a failure when they fall?
Right.
No, it's just a part of the process. And you try again, adjust, and until you get into integrity of the movement,
Right.
And so, that is how I find, like, how is it fun? It's fun because I get to pick what gives me the most exhilaration, what generates the most high vibration energy, right? And so when you start the morning that way, when you start it happy and joyful, it's like building a cushion around you, right? Because now you're in a good mood. Now you're happy, you're joyful. All right, then the kids start waking up, and maybe there's a glass that broke in the next room, right? Like all the chaos started. Imagine handling all those things when you're already in a good mood, when you've just had fun, right? Because you've done something for yourself, you've just been loved by yourself, and compared to when you're depleted and when you're like in your bed, so tired,
Right.
right?
And everything
And you
feels
step
heavy.
into that room, a different person.
Yeah, yeah, you feel
Yeah.
lighter instead because it's like when we're feeling joyful, life just feels lighter, right? And when we're sitting in bed and
Mm-hmm.
dreading all the things and listing out all those things that we have to get done in that day, I know that that's what makes me want to put the covers back over my head is I can make it feel
Yeah.
so heavy, even though whether I'm joyful or whatever, it's still the same. It just feels different or I perceive it differently. And what I love about this is that you were
Right.
really curious. Like that's one of the keys I think that you had here was
Mm,
you were like, I don't know if I'm going to like doing push-ups, but I'll try it. I'll give myself a challenge. I don't know if I'm going to like this, right? But I can be curious and I can just try it. And
mm-hmm.
I can always change it if it doesn't
Yeah.
bring me joy, but I'm actually going to be
Mm-hmm.
open that healthy things can actually be really good for me. And for some of us, that's a really hard step to get over. So being curious about, gee, I wonder if this will bring more fun. And it's something that you had to make that choice the first time to be like, I want to bring a little bit of Hawaii back with me. So I'm going to do
Mm.
this I'm going to make the choice because I'm sure the first few times that you went to make the choice to move around, there was part of you that was saying, I don't want to do that. Could just lay here for 10 or
Mm-hmm.
15 more minutes and get some
Yeah.
rest.
Yeah, there's always a resistance, and that's why when we're habituating ourselves, to something new, it's important to make it fun and easy. Then, okay, I think the biggest thing here is the positive association that you have, that your mind and your body has with this new thing, right? And the bridge is that fun.
Instead of going, I
It's
have
that
to go do
ease.
this thing. I got to force
Yes.
myself. As I have clients all the time, they're like,
Mm-hmm.
I just can't force myself. Yeah, forcing ourselves to do things is really challenging. But convincing ourselves that
No.
it's like, this could be exciting. Who knows what can happen?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's a possibility I'm going to
Yeah.
feel more joy, right? Like, what if we just ask the opposite?
Yes. Yeah, because then when you say you've done it for 7 days, right, for the whole week, and then your body and your mind would start taking it as like, oh, that's not so bad.
Right.
Then waking up the next morning would be easier. And then because you're having so much fun,
you're seeing the
and you know
benefit.
how to have fun.
Yeah, you're seeing the benefits of bringing that fun into your day. It's extending into your morning, and then you expand your morning routine, and it extends all the way into your afternoon. Right? And so we start associating all those positive benefits, like, ooh, I had more energy. I didn't feel like a nap today. That was great. Like all of those little things that we can notice, and that'll help us keep on it. And I love this. It seems like such an act of self-love.
Oh, I like how you put it. It is. It is a constant, like, the whole time is really pouring love to myself, which gives me so much energy.
Yeah.
Right.
You're filling your own
day.
cup. So then the rest of the day, you're not looking for other people to fill your cup. You're focused on things that bring you joy. So you're like going to find more things that bring you joy rather than when we wake up ruffled and tussled. And then we're like looking for all the things that create stress in our lives. And then we just keep finding more and more.
Yeah. And this is also, another important thing from this is also that empowerment of taking responsibility of our own energy. That is also a bigger understanding that I've got. Okay, now I got the taste of generating my own joyful energy. And so whatever happens outside of me, maybe, the news or, negative people, because I've built this cushion, right? I've fortified myself with positive energy. I now know how to navigate through life, right? Or like, control how much exposure I would give myself to, like, all these certain things that don't serve me, right? So I know to create my own boundaries now because I've learned what makes me happy and I know what makes me unhappy. And so I'm the one responsible now.
And you can trust yourself. That's the thing. You can trust yourself that you're going to make good decisions for yourself. That's the competency behind the confidence, right? So first we have to have competency, and competency makes us make choices that maybe we have resistance against. But we have to know that this is just an experiment. I'm going to try this, see if it can help bring me more joy by doing this morning routine. And then we get the confidence, because after we've made that choice enough times, we start trusting ourselves and going, yeah, I'm going to make good choices for myself. I'm going to show up the way that I want to, rather than letting life kind of tumble me around. I love that, what you said about being empowered, because I think it is so powerful to recognize that we can change our own energy. This podcast is supported by Christina Smith Coaching as a service to get you to have more confidence and self-love. One way we do that is by bringing what we learn into our bodies, by lighting up our senses. Some people call these types of exercises rituals. I think they're really alignments. Something we do each day to align with what we truly want, rather than getting stuck in the default of trying to outrun what we don't. I bet you could use a little self-love ritual today, and there's a short quiz or survey to pick the best one for you. You can go to the link in the description to take the free quiz to get the self-love alignment that is right for you right now. You'll also get a download of 5 self-love rituals so you can switch it up and try one each day. Our little thank you for tuning into our podcast and into your own heart.
And you're confident when you're a happy person.
It sure is easier than thinking about all the negatives, right?
Yes, exactly.
So give us some tips on how we can start embracing a morning routine. I've just recently become more of a morning person. This morning, in fact, I woke up at like 3:45. I couldn't believe it.
Two things. So 3:45. Wow, that's
not on
amazing.
Purpose.
Well, okay. Another thing that I should probably make the connection with is nightly habits, evening habits, because in order for you to have a good morning. It's important to have good evening. How about this? The thought that you go to sleep with is the first thought that you have first thing in the morning when you wake up. And so I would go to sleep having all these beautiful thoughts about the things that I'm grateful for. And I wake up grateful. So that's okay. One of them. But two things that you could start with the next morning is try to wake up 10 minutes earlier, right? And then maybe the following week you can try 15 minutes. And the second thing following that is before you do that, you might want to explore what could be something that is super fun, that brings a smile to your face, something that you want to do again and again and again, right within the 10, 15 minutes.
Okay.
It could be, for me, it's dancing, because you know what? I really recommend that, because the body is made for moving. When you have the combination of you being free to move your body to music that you like, that's like the best. That's like a best mood lifter, right? But for some people, it could be singing. Okay, maybe singing and dancing, right? Or Peloton, or a walk outside. Any kind of exposure that makes you feel exhilarated. I think that's the biggest thing. Sometimes
it's just changing your space too. You know what I mean? Like if you spend your morning sitting on the couch being lazy for half an hour, go outside and sit for half an hour maybe. You know what I mean? Just sometimes it's just these subtle changes that we can do. And I love that you say just 10 minutes. Like, what is 10 minutes? That's one snooze, right? Like
But then you can have fun. You could give love and fun to yourself in the 10 minutes. That would be so different when you start, your first 10 minutes of the day, like, running around, overwhelmed, right? Or something that just came to mind is like if the first thing that you have to do is to walk your dog, for example. You have to walk your dogs. What about paying attention to how present your dogs are, how happy they are to be outside, how everything is so fascinating, right? How they're just like so excited to see other dogs, or how excited they are to just be outside. It's like that kind of gratitude and presence, that is nourishing for your soul. And,
especially if you're a person like me who wakes up and like the whole filing cabinet in my head wants to start going, and it's like, what do we have to do today? What do we have to prepare? Like I want to get right into my list, but then that makes the whole day just like this rote kind of exercise of just doing things and checking things off lists. So I love this idea of like joyful and present, like something that's going to take you from overthinking all that stuff. We can hold that off because we're 10 minutes early. So we have this extra 10 minutes. We don't have to worry about that until 10 minutes from now. So giving ourselves this presence. And I love that, because I do believe that animals are really, really present. I don't have any right now, but I have squirrels and birds in the backyard, and I feed them in the morning so I can watch them because they bring me joy.
And imagine how happy they are that you're there to feed them.
Yeah, and just watching them fly around and run around and stuff. I don't know. It's a simple little tiny thing, and I notice that I become more present and joyful when I'm watching them. So these don't have to be huge things. Beautiful. Jenny's not saying go out and buy a Peloton. You have music on your phone or wherever. Just turn on some music and start dancing.
Yes, the simpler, the better.
Exactly. Because then once we enjoy that 10 or 15 minutes, then we might go, wow, you know what? I never get to read anymore. I would love to read in the morning for 20 minutes just to, get my head out in a fantasy world or whatever we decide to read. And all these things that we say we don't have time for, what if we could figure out how to break them into 10 or 15-minute bits? And at least, we get 10 or 15 minutes of a book in the morning. That means you're going to have a book read in a couple of months, right? Like it doesn't have to be a huge, I need to go to an exercise class for a whole hour or anything like that. That's not what this is about.
Yeah, it won't be working for me if that's how I started. Like, wake up 2 hours, wake up at 5 in the morning so we could go to the gym. Oh, that's not sustainable.
Right. As it might be for some people. Yeah. So we're not saying it's not a good idea. What we're saying is choose the thing that really lights you up and is going to get you excited. If you're not a runner, running is not the idea. It's whatever you want to do to bring joy.
Yep. And another thing, to keep your mind positive in the morning, do not listen to the news.
Oh,
no. So important. Listen to something inspiring, right? Something that lights you up. Maybe a story, maybe an inspiring podcast, or anything inspiring. Audiobook, that's what I usually listen to. But that is also something else that I stack up on top of everything else. But you could also listen to an inspiring podcast while, say, you're preparing breakfast or washing the dishes. Right. So there are these 4 pillars that I finally developed like in these years. So first is emotional, right? Because if I'm not emotionally there, it's really hard to wake up to, right? And so that's why I choose the happiest thing for me to do, just the dance. And it has to be also physically nourishing. It could be through my workout, the challenge, and juicing. But that is something that I figured out later on, like after a few months. Then on top of that is spirituality. And that's how I mentioned the inspiring podcast, right? Like I'd be listening to different people who are, that I find inspiring, like Deepak Chopra.
And it can be prayer for some people. It could be meditation for some people. Yes. However you connect to that spiritual part of yourself is what I'm hearing.
Exactly. Yes. Connect to that. Connect to source. Meditate. Right. That's a part of my ritual too. Meditating, breath work. And then, like what you said, reading, intellectual part of it. Right. If you have time and if you're there, you can add 5 minutes to read a few pages of your book. You'll finish it by, I don't know, maybe 8 weeks. That's good. That's
one more book that you didn't read last year or whatever.
Yeah. So those are the 4 big aspects that I cover in the morning. And so when you meet those aspects of yourself, it's, at least for me, I find it very satisfying. Because then I am fulfilling my needs first thing in the morning, especially for a lot of women who wear different hats, right? Who are always prioritizing everybody else but themselves. But like first thing in the morning, you could give love to yourself in different ways, right? Fulfill your emotional needs, your physical needs, spiritual and intellectual. Then it is okay. I think what I want to say is that when you know how to take care of yourself, when you know how to love yourself, then you know how to meet people where they are and you know how to show compassion and love.
It sure becomes easier.
Because you've done the same to yourself.
Right. Yeah. The more love and compassion that we have for ourselves, the more that we can have for other people. Absolutely. And it reminds me of that metaphor that Iyanla Van Zandt used to say about, I got to fill my cup up first. Whatever comes out of the cup is for y'all. You can have that. But my cup needs to be full. Or else what we're doing is we're almost making other people's thieves because they're taking the energy that we don't even have yet. So this is a really great, empowering way to fill up our own cup every morning so that we're not walking into the world with an empty cup or, something less than, and then trying to give
Yes.
from that depletion rather from joy or generosity or our own benevolence.
Yeah, exactly. And especially with women, right, that I know who are, so many of them are running from state of depletion. It of course it's hard. And but then women are also assets in the family. They are the life givers. They are, to me, they are the soil of earth, right? And of course, everyone who are on earth, we are here for service, each of us, right? But then, just like the soil, it needs to be tended to. The well-being of the soil needs to be a priority.
Right. If
Then
things come
it
by
can
and
give
take all the
beautiful
minerals
things.
or the, good stuff out of the
Exactly.
soil, we're not going to be able to grow anything.
Yeah. Exactly. And so see yourself as as the soil that needs to be tended to first thing, always.
So let's, I want to overview some of the tips that we already went over. One of them that I noticed that Jenny didn't bring up was that it takes a lot of curiosity, right? Just exploring and being curious. What is it that I can do to bring joy to myself? How can I just carve out
like
5,
that.
10, 15 minutes, right? Just being open and curious instead of the naysayer, like, that's not going to work. That's not going to work, because that makes it so much harder.
Yeah.
So curiosity. I also heard that it starts the night before, right? We're setting ourselves up for a good
Yes.
morning by going to bed. Well, one thing was for me, because I'm a night owl, is like, you're going to have to go to bed at a regular time because I'm not going to be able to wake up after 4 or 5 hours and want to have joy, right? For me personally, I need a full night's rest. So preparing with a full night's rest and with our mindset the night before. I also heard that we could start with just 10 minutes. Come on, people, that can't be so hard. That's just one snooze less than we were taking before. So, so we can
Yes.
tune in. And then I heard that, the 4 pillars. So we want to do things that are bringing us, and maybe at first it doesn't start with all 4. Pick one, keep stacking is what I heard Jenny say, is that this wasn't an overnight change. She didn't come back from Hawaii and was like, every morning I'm getting up 2 hours earlier. That would have felt daunting and impossible, I am sure. So she said to start just with 10 minutes and do one of the pillars. And we had physical, emotional, spiritual, and intellectual. So any other tips or anything else you have to add?
And from the 10 minutes, you can stack up 5 more minutes the next couple of weeks, and maybe the following month you add 10 more minutes, but always make it fun.
Yeah.
Or you could change it up a bit, make it interesting.
Yeah, if something stops being
simple
fun,
and fun.
Get curious and try something different.
Yes. I love what you said about being curious. Exactly. Well, what about asking ourselves? So, yeah, it's really easy for us to get stuck in the resistance, right? But what if we maintain that curiosity? Like, okay, what kind of a person could I be if I could maintain doing this, say, for the next couple of weeks?
Right. Yeah. You'd be surprised how much a little bit of change,
like being happy?
right? Especially for women who feel like they don't have any time to themselves, right? To have 10 or 15 minutes to be just for you. I mean, even if you get up and quietly sip coffee in the kitchen alone for 15 minutes, that might be a huge change for some people. So start small and build is what I'm hearing. And I also am hearing in the back of my head, Mel Robbins, she has that 5-second rule. Like, so instead of sitting in the bed and you're about to hit that snooze again, instead go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and stop all the thoughts that you're having. Just get up and go do the dang thing. It's only 10 minutes. You're going to survive. I promise.
Yeah. And so it is, with that little piece of 10 minutes, that you are starting to develop this positive association with of your mind and your body
Right.
to this morning thing that you might not like, but can be fun.
Yes, it's not something you have to
can make
do.
it
It's
fun.
something you're doing for yourself. There's a huge
Yes.
difference in that. Well, thank you, Jenny, so
You're
much
so
for
welcome.
coming on and talking about morning routines. I'm going to see if in 2023 I can just, maybe if I even just start, hello, people out there that might want to have some accountability, start with 5 minutes and then add 5 minutes every few weeks. And maybe that would mean by the end of the year, I'd have like an hour of morning routine, right? Even if I started with 5 and 5 minutes every month, that would leave me with an hour at the end of the year, which would be amazing.
An hour of fun.
Yes, an hour of fun to
for
fill up my
you
cup before I go meet the world, right?
Yeah.
How I could impact
How
my
good is
kids
that?
and my husband and my friends and my clients and everything so much better if we have that to give in the beginning. So such a lovely conversation. I
Yes.
hope that people are going to take this to heart. And if you're listening and you do start this, I would love to hear messages. I'm sure Jenny would love to hear messages. I'm going to put her information around here somewhere so that you can get a hold of her and tune in to see what other tips she has. Hey, one more thing. When we are all more confident and full of self-love, we can act more intentionally and mindfully. What would a world like that look like? I want to know. One way that you can help me with this vision is to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast wherever you listen to it. It helps more than you know, and it's just a few clicks to help me create a more beautiful world. And as always, remember to be gentle with your humanness.